Hi, I'm Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
And I'm Ginny Oliva Smith. Welcome to Soul Rising.
On this podcast, you will hear honest, off-the-cuff, vulnerable conversations about all things love, loss, and connection.
Deep and meaningful conversations sure to pull at your heartstrings and enlighten your soul.
Again, welcome. It's time to let your soul rise. Shame. Where does it come from? Why does it rock us to our core so fiercely that it becomes a compelling part of our identity, controlling our behavior and how we show up in relationships? Shame holds this incredible power to disconnect us from ourselves and from others, sometimes to the point of depression, addiction. So the question is, if shame has this fierce grip on us, how do we stop letting it control these self-perceptions and guide our actions? Welcome back to Soul Rising, everybody.
Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome that you came back.
Thank you, everybody who came back, who listened to the first episode, and welcome to the newbies. The people who gave us great feedback, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And we took it to heart. And one of the major things was reining it in a little bit, and kind of drilling down on one particular topic. And today's topic is shame, baby, shame.
Ooh, yes, shame.
Ugh. This is episode 2. We're calling this one Burn It Down.
Yes, burn it down.
So we're talking about shame. We're going to talk about where it comes from, how it controls us, and really, most importantly, and our mission on this podcast is how does shame work to disconnect us from our true selves, which is pure love,
right?
And how does it work to disconnect us from others? And how can we stop the disconnection? How do we stop letting it do that?
Exactly.
How do we just shut it down? How do we identify it? What does it look like?
Yeah.
How has it shown up in the past? How does it show up today?
Those are all such good things because it is very elusive, isn't it? It's so elusive.
Yeah, shame is that thing that it's so like insidious where it just becomes a part of us, our identity, and it comes out in all these different ways. And none of them are good.
No, none of them are good. And there are things that we can't just see outright ever, it feels like. And they really are come from a deep rooted place or something they're so deep within us. It has a different set of characteristics, shame. It's one that, and we never talk about it. So that's why it's good to do it.
I mean, some emotions, like we touched on this last time a little bit, like some emotions are just endemic within every human. Like every single human has these emotions like fear and love and joy and grief, happiness, all this kind of stuff. But shame really deserves a spot at the top of that list.
It does. It really does. Just because it's so concentrated, I feel like it is so dense and concentrated, and it just ends up impacting so much. And we don't know it. We don't know so much of where things are coming from within us, some of our destructive behaviors, some of our self-worth. I mean, it's coming from this place. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's because we don't talk about it. It's we don't know when it's showing up because we're not talking about it like we talk about other more pleasant emotions like joy or love or happiness, or it even seems less desirable to acknowledge than fear or grief or loss. It's like
guilt, anger,
like dirty little secret nobody wants to look at because maybe it feels all-encompassing. Magnanimous. What is that? What is that even the right word?
We need to call my brother. I'm gonna text Ron.
Call in. Can you call in?
Oh yeah, phone a friend. You're gonna be our phone a friend. Good thing, because these. Yes, that's a great word though.
Ron's very smart. And Ron, thank you so much. I read the feedback you gave to Ginny, and it was extremely helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, one of which was, by the way, guys, it is rabble. It's rabble rousers. If you listen to the last episode, because I've been calling it rebel rousers my whole life. Amanda said rabble. It was a thing. If you didn't hear the first episode, go check it out. It's worth your time. Thanks, brother. Thank you for clarifying that. It's rabble.
Thanks for making me right, Ron. I like being right. Thank you.
Yeah. Amanda was right. I was like, well, my brother, he's like, it's rabble, you dumbass.
So, shame is so disturbing because unlike anger or fear or something that we can kind of get under control, more quickly, I'd say.
Or even understand. You can understand anger. You can wrap your head around it, define it.
You can feel it and you're like, okay, I know what that is. Shame, it's hard to define, but it rips me, like what Ginny said, like this self-worth and the sense of belonging. Shame is the opposite of worthiness. If
Yes.
I'm feeling shameful, there's no room for self-worth.
Of
The two cannot coexist.
Mm-mm. No, and you think about that how many times of the self-destructive things, well, myself, I can speak for myself, in parts of my life, the self-destructive things I've done to myself, not really understanding why at times, or just
Yeah.
beating
Yeah.
myself up so badly,
Mhm.
knowing now, a lot of that was stemmed to shame. I had no idea. I had no clue.
Yeah. And where does it come from? Like, where
Mhm.
does this shame come from? Like, is it
Mainly things no one ever wants to talk about, right?
family, right?
Yeah.
Childhood
Yeah.
experiences, society.
Mhm.
I blame a lot on society. Quick story: I was in the Verizon store like years ago with my family, and we were getting, I guess, new phones or whatever. And the sales lady, Pinky was her name. We always
Was it really?
Yeah, Pinky, Pinky. Do you guys know Pinkie Pie, the My Little Pony? We always say we call her Pinkie Pie. Anyway. So I was in My Little Pony world at this time. So anyway, Pinkie Pie is trying to sell us on some HD something, like this HD TV or this HD. I don't
Yeah.
even know what the heck it was, because I tune out when I hear like any
When Piggy starts talking all the
technological
technology,
jargon. I'm like, yeah, not
I'm
my
out.
shtick. Anyway, Pinkie Pie was trying to sell us this thing. And she says, "Doesn't your family deserve HD?" Or whatever it was.
You're like, golly, Pinky, jeez.
I walked out of the store. I said, "No, Jim, I don't." That's my husband. I deserve food.
Yeah.
I deserve
Our kids deserve a
shelter.
roof over their head.
Yeah, I don't deserve that. But anyway, it felt like a shame tactic. It felt like she
Interesting.
was trying to make me feel less than. You need this thing, or else you're a piece of garbage.
Right.
You're not worthy.
And that's funny because the cultural, I mean, you're right. Because how many people are like, oh, you have an Apple, what? Oh, you have a what? 11? Like, oh
Yeah.
God, poor you.
Or what kind of car you're gonna drive.
Yeah.
Right? Like, society and these messages, the advertising, is so insidious.
Mhm.
It's such a part of our daily life that we don't even recognize it anymore for the purpose, for what it's trying to do.
Isn't that crazy to think though that maybe that's like the whole point? Like maybe we're not the only ones that realize or are working on realizing that shame is one of the most useful tactics to control how we
Mhm.
feel, whether
Shame
it
and
be
fear, shame and fear.
yeah, what we do to ourselves and what also someone can convince us of about ourselves through that shame.
It's pretty easy because a lot of it, right, like we say, stems from early experiences in childhood.
Right.
For me, it was a sexual trauma at 5 years old and another one
Mm.
at 7 years old that
Mm.
left me with this intense feeling of shame. I'm bad. I'm dirty. There's something inherently flawed within me. Why
Without
did
even
this
having to
happen to
know, isn't
me?
that like
Yeah. I
without
didn't even
even
know anything
having
about it. Exactly.
Mm-mm.
Nobody sat me down
No.
and showed me somebody who'd been through this and that they felt this way. It wasn't anything that was supplanted into my head. It was this
Innate.
innate feeling of I'm bad, right?
Broken, bad, and yeah, just
And I
yeah.
don't deserve anything good.
Mm.
I deserve to suffer.
Mhm.
And then took off later in life with my addiction, right? Took off with this self-fulfilling prophecy, this
Mm.
perpetuating this story, this lie about shame. Shame is a big fat liar
Oh yeah.
that lied to me my whole life and told me, "Amanda, you're a piece of shit and you deserve to suffer." So I find alcohol
Yep.
and I managed to
Make the
make the
story
story
true.
true.
Yeah. It's incredible how we do that too, and we don't even realize that that's what it is. It's like, well, this is a story. This is the soundtrack in my mind. Therefore, it's what I'm comfortable with. It's the message that I know about myself, even if it's not true. So, without even
Mhm.
consciously or not consciously, I'm going to go ahead and recreate. I'm going to pull those instruments to make that soundtrack the truth. I'm going to take the action sometimes of even making it true.
Yeah. And all
Yeah.
the while, it's ripping me from the inside out, ripping my
Mhm.
my sense of self-worth, my self-love. I'm becoming more and more disconnected
Mm.
from myself and then from others. And I am also probably projecting my shame
Oh
onto
yeah.
others because it's gonna come out,
No
you
matter
know?
what. And yeah, because it has to find a way. Otherwise, like we'll choke on it.
Yeah, I
So
can't sit with all this. I
no.
gotta unload a little bit.
Gotta unload a little bit. And you think about when I'm thinking of everyone in the world, everyone has something, and it does stem from so many things. This is like one of the things I feel that is such a huge form of our disconnection. We don't even know it. We're all trying to figure out, yeah, there's a lot of reasons we can clearly see why there's separation with us, but the shame part of this, talking about, we don't ever see it. We just don't ever even, it's not something we automatically see. Um, as easy as we can, anger or fear,
Yeah.
It's
It's
crazy how
just
much.
so elusive
Mhm.
and it's so hard to identify. So I think what we want to talk about on this episode is what is shame? How do you identify it? Because
Mhm.
you got to become aware. You can't, the first step to any sort of healing, first, I actually just posted this the other day, is giving yourself permission to heal. And
Yes.
then I guess the second step is becoming aware. Once you're
Right.
like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to heal from this, then all of a sudden you just start seeing it. Just like, hey, I'm going to buy a yellow BMW. Now we
Right.
see BMW, yellow BMWs
Everywhere.
everywhere, right? So
Mhm.
that's the thing. You become aware once you allow yourself to. So the whole purpose of Ginny and I, our mission here while we're doing this is to help you heal. If
It
you
really
can get
is.
this thing like somewhat under control, I mean, it's definitely something that I'm going to be battling my whole life for sure.
For
But if you
sure.
can get it somewhat under control, you're going to
Absolutely.
jump up like 5 levels in your personal
Just
growth.
by identifying it, it's almost kind of like, you think about like a prize fighter or somebody who's going into a fight or into a match.
You like those metaphors.
I
You
do.
talked about WWE the other day.
Oh
It's
my
good. It's
God,
good. They're
right?
good.
I know. I'm like, here I go again, metaphor land. Sorry, guys. But, the idea that if you're getting ready to go fight like a boxer that's like world renowned boxer, most of the time, some fighters sitting back and saying, well, who's the fighter I'm fighting, right?
Mm.
They don't ever go in expecting to be able to beat that or anything. If they were blindfolded and didn't know their opponent, they have to train for that. So it's almost like,
Mm.
I don't know, in my mind,
Mhm.
shame is like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like if you were going into the ring with the blindfold on, never knowing what you're fighting against, you're not going to do
Yeah.
well. But if you can step back and go, let me look at my opponent. Let me see what this is. Let me at least
Bring
identify
this
it.
stuff out into the light.
Yes.
It's not fun. It's not pretty.
No. To even just to put light on it. Because if you
Yeah.
can even pinpoint and go, oh, you know what? That time when I was 5,
Yeah.
that's what this
That's
is.
where this started. And now
Yeah.
this is, oh, wait, what's that feeling? What's that thing that's going on inside, right? Stopping and saying to yourself, I can identify
Mhm.
when I'm getting that pit in the stomach
Mhm.
or I'm just feeling like squirmy in my skin or I don't like myself. That is a big identifier for
Oh,
me with
yeah.
shame. I don't like myself. And then it always goes back to the healing. Like this is like I said, like a lifelong endeavor.
Absolutely.
But I have learned the tools, and we want to try to give some of those tools away to you today. And I think the first thing we should probably do is identify shame in terms of how it's different from guilt, because
Right.
those two emotions can really, intermingle and they can be hard to separate.
Absolutely. They're similar, but I think shame just has so much more density. Shame, well, I think it's more an innate thing. It's not something, it's so much more dense, but it's caused maybe by actions, I
Mhm.
think. Like guilt can be.
Yeah, like so. Again, we're going to venture into metaphor land. Um, I like nature metaphors.
Mhm.
I feel like nature is just a complete reflection of humanity because
Yes.
I believe we are all one. I think nature is desperately trying to teach us some things and
Oh, yeah.
like shouting at us. But I look at shame as like the root of, say, a weed or a flower or a
Right.
bush or a tree, whatever. That root there, I love when I can get the root. I love it.
Oh,
So
it's
it's
the best feeling.
satisfying.
I
My
love to
friend,
pull weeds. I literally do. I always have. Anyone who knows me will say,
yes.
yeah, this crazy chick, like, yeah, I
Yeah.
would pull weeds for stress relief. But yes, go ahead.
I think I like to tell myself I pull the weeds on my curb strip because I'm so earth conscious.
Is that
But I
amazing?
really think it's my like
It's
crazy,
rewarding.
weirdly satisfying thing of pulling this whole thing
I'm there with
around.
you, but
So weird.
listen, I'm there.
Us humans are just anyway. So that is like the shame is getting that thing right by the root, pulling that. It's in it because it takes root. It takes root. It's so deep. It's so in your core. Guilt is more like pruning of the tree or
Hmm.
pulling off the dead leaves,
Right.
as it's more, guilt feels to me more like outside of myself. And I'm sitting here talking with my hands, by the way. Ginny's probably like this crazy Italian. What is she doing?
Listen, I've spent some time around some crazy Italians. I got you.
Oh, my gosh, you know it.
We do love you, crazy
Yes,
Italians,
yes.
and you guys can get a little crazy.
We are.
Let's be real. But yeah, it's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
So anyway, back to the flower. So
Yes.
the guilt is kind of like the outside. It's more like objective, I would say, where shame then is more like subjective. So shame identifies me. It defines me
Mhm.
as bad, dirty, unworthy, all that, right?
Mhm.
Guilt is an action outside of me that was pretty much caused by a behavior, maybe circumstantial, maybe like I was feeling this way that day. I was pissed off at
Mhm.
so and so. So I went and I don't know why I'm thinking of keying somebody's car, but I would never, ever do that. And
She's lying. I know she did.
it happened to me, which is probably why it came up.
That's probably why I grew up in Albuquerque. I have a lot of friends, I think, that keyed some cars. So, but anyway, we won't.
Anyway, doing some, shady thing like that. And that's an action I took. It's not really who I am. I was
Yeah.
feeling this way. I was feeling pissed off. I was vengeful. I took some kind of action that I'm not proud of and I feel bad about it. And some guilt can be super heavy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's things that I've done in sobriety that carry like a
Ugh.
shitload. We said we
The
weren't going to
guilt.
curse, but
I think it's going to happen now and again. I don't think it's going to, we're going to really try, guys.
we're going to try. We're going to try. So there's some major guilt that does need to be cleaned up, but it's not as invasive. Not as invasive as shame. It's just, it just is so, ugh.
Do you think that maybe it's because we feel like when it comes to guilt that we're more in control of the circumstances of guilt and that shame is something that
Yes.
we have no control over
Yes.
the
Yes.
circumstances? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think you're onto something completely.
Mm-hmm. We feel more in control. And when it comes to guilt, it's like, well, I had control of that. I did that. Like it's not so much that it's just
In there. And it also
Mhm.
speaks to the elusive versus the overt type of
Right.
thing where like I could see this. I could see, all right, I got too much change back at Walgreens and I didn't give it back, right? Or whatever
Yeah.
it is. Like that's obvious. That's obvious. I could see it. It's there. It's in black and white. Shame is this thing. It's like this corroding thread that like it's just invasive.
It's looming too. It's very hard to pinpoint. It's all over the place.
And I mix those two things together for a long time. Like I
Yeah.
did not know the difference between that. I don't know if I said this yet, but Brene Brown does a really good job of explaining the difference. So go check her out.
Yes.
She's amazing. She's like the emotion queen.
I need to
in a
listen
way.
to more. I've listened to a lot of her, but I need to listen to more because it sounds like she really just in terms of being vulnerable and
She knows what she's talking
tapping
about.
in.
Yeah,
She's been there.
She's on point.
She's on point.
So anyway, I was not able to identify the difference or see the difference between guilt and shame. So I put it all together. So everything that I did that was bad outside of me, or everything that I felt inside of me, took on this like big shame bubble. This big bubble of I'm a piece of garbage and perpetuated from stuff that happened to me in childhood, messages I got from family members, things that just went on, and then various trauma compounded through my life, and then I find alcohol.
Yeah.
And again, I can just keep perpetuating. It can make this lie true.
Right. Even though we think we're numbing, that's the thing. The crazy part
Yeah.
is that it temporarily, briefly, quickly, very in a persuasive way, takes you briefly from that moment. You think the alcohol takes you from that heaviness, that guilt, or whatever, the shame that's there. We think we use it for that, but then it just pours gasoline.
We're drinking to escape the shame,
Right.
but we wind up creating more
10
shame.
times more.
Like that's the insanity of addiction.
Oh, yeah.
It makes no sense, but yet we can't stop doing it. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about all that kind of stuff on another episode. We're really trying to, Ron used the
Okay.
word, drill it down. So
Yeah,
I'm trying
drill it
to
down.
Drill it down,
Drill it
baby.
down. You guys are talking about
We're
so
gonna
much. So
drill.
drilling. We're
All right,
going
we're
deeper.
drilling. We're drilling. So let's talk about our shame.
Mm.
How has it shown up for you in the past? How does it show up now?
Right.
Does it? How does it work for you?
And you mean for me, right? You weren't just talking to our friends out there. You were talking to me, right, Amanda?
Oh, I was talking to you.
I was like, wait, I know I'm all, yeah, guys, tell us, like, you're here with us. That's the really funny part. You guys, there are times we're sitting here talking. We're so deep in a conversation. I'm just waiting for you guys to answer back. So if you hear me pause, you're like, what's happening? Oh, Ginny thinks we're in the room. Really? Like, for real. So
Yes.
that's how it feels.
Yeah.
And also, this is only the second time I've ever done a podcast. Anyway, yes, Amanda. It shows up in a lot of different ways. I think I could go on, I could write a book about the amount of shame that I have had due to alcoholism, due to, where those places have taken us, at the end, like we were talking about, what's the wonderful term?
Oh,
Incomprehensible
demoralization.
Yes.
That's what we in recovery say. We have something called the big book. You read through it and you get to that part and everybody's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I get
because
that.
everyone has it. So, yeah, and I mean everyone. That's the amazing thing about some of those groups and rooms where you hear you're not alone. So much of that. There's so many things. I could write a book where I've been able to identify it for certain. I know for sure I have a couple of events that are pretty specific, but one of them where I know for sure was the feeling was something that happened to me many years ago. It was before I was married or had children. I was still younger, and I definitely wasn't aware of the fact that I did not have a good relationship with alcohol yet. Still in denial, I think, about that. But just having one of those regular old nights where, hanging out, and one drink was never one drink. That's how it
Mhm.
is. You start
Yeah.
and you go till it's gone, and having a fun party night around people that I cared about, trusted, at a friend's house that I've known many, many, many years. And her cousin was there, everybody went to bed. And of course I did not, because there was still alcohol to be had.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the way that
Exactly.
went,
Yep.
2 in the morning or not. And
Yeah.
yeah, we continued to drink, and it was me and my friend's cousin. And again, I trusted him and know this guy for many years. And I know by choice I would never do anything with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wouldn't. Because again, just close family member of a really good friend. It wouldn't have gone there. But I only remember up to a certain point. Next thing I know, waking up in the spare bedroom in the same bed with this person and looking over and still being drunk too, because I don't know if any of you have had
Oh,
those
yeah.
kind of binge nights, but
Oh,
you're
yeah.
still drunk in the morning. And to my left, he's laying in the bed. I'm there. I'm in the bed, but my pants are all the way down at my ankles, and I have bruises all over my legs. Um, I get up. Of course, I'm immediately just trying to get oriented, and in my head, none of it's computing, because this would never happen. First off, I'd never do this with this person. This person would never do this to me, right? This is not something that could even happen. And, questioning, all of a sudden I get up and he wakes up, and I say, "What happened? What's going on? And why are my pants down? Why do I have bruises on my legs?" "I have no idea. I don't know what happened to you. I have no idea. I know you tried to get up to go to the restroom sometime.
Oh,
Where you
yeah.
fell."
Sure, buddy.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. With
That
that,
just screams guilt to me. Like,
me too.
you guys were just, having some fun. He could just say, "Hey, we had a good time last night," but he's immediately went to
Immediately.
excuse.
I think you tried to go to the restroom and you fell. Right. But the immediate part
Got
for me
lame.
too, right? There was this thing that was like, maybe you did because you're hammered. You don't even remember what happened last night, and then that part of it. So this questioning for those two things of like, did this happen to me? And was I so abandoned from myself that I just let this happen to me? And
Mhm.
then it was, well, no, you also are so drunk that if it did happen to you, who are you going to be mad at? You're going to be mad at this guy, and he would have done. What if you, in your head, you start having all these questions? Like, but I know myself. I don't think I would have gone that route. But anyway, going through a couple days of really having to figure out and tangle with that shame, and now I can look back and identify what the feeling was. I didn't know at the time, and he couldn't give me a straight answer about what happened. And then, I had finally had the counseling advice of a couple of people I had talked to, because it was just weighing on me. I was sick.
Mhm.
I was viscerally, like, just in turmoil about it. And grateful I didn't remember, but still,
Mhm.
nonetheless, there's something innate in us that knows,
Yes.
And at much back and forth and much, just dealing with that shame quite a bit, someone had convinced me, maybe you need to check, and maybe you need to go get a rape kit done. Just go get it done, like, for your own sanity. Just go do it, which in itself is very challenging. And I have only gone through that process once, and I just want to really put it out there right now for any of you that have had the courage or had to go into a situation of having that done. You guys, you are warriors and amazing, and you don't have to have that shame about it. It was one of the most intense, heavy things, and I know a lot of you have had to go through that situation. So just know that you're not alone in that, and you don't have to be. But anyway, when I was finally convinced to be able to go do that, I did it. It was the whole process felt shameful, and they're asking you questions about everything.
The event in and of itself is enough, but then you have this shame
Yeah,
of going to get this rape kit,
yeah.
and then questioning, well, this is my fault.
Is
Did
this
I
my
bring
fault?
this
Yeah.
on? Because that's what the
The
little
shame
liar
thing.
does. That
Yes, it
shame
does.
thing does. It tells you things are your fault. You
Yeah,
blame yourself. So you have like a triple shame event.
big time. And on top of that, I had consensual sex with somebody that I was seeing off and on, like 3 days before this, right? This became a weird deal because they told me, they're like, okay, they start going through the whole situation with me. They're doing the black light, they're doing everything they need to do. And they're like, well, um, there's traces of semen on your legs.
Mhm.
They're like, and they're trying to be as gentle with me about this as possible. And at the same time, here I go too, going, okay, but what if it's this other person that I was with, that I like consensually was with, and I start asking the questions? Okay, well, so we can tell who it is, right? Like, we'll be able to tell. And they say, well, unless you decide to make the decision to file charges, I
Yeah,
mean,
you need to get DNA.
they're like, we can collect this, but we can't tell you what's here unless you make the choice right now to open up a case, which kind of sucked because,
Yeah.
so then again, here I am with this other part of shame of like, okay, so what if I have to open up a case and make an accusation of this person? What if it didn't
Yeah.
happen?
Then I gotta keep talking about it, and I gotta keep reliving it. Yeah.
Right. Well, and also, what if it's not, I'm going to ruin someone's life maybe? And
Yeah.
what if I did this to myself? Kind of a situation,
Oh
right?
man.
So Yeah, 'cause
That's
then
tough.
all of that part of it and the alcohol part of thinking, it was that double whammy. So I think
Yeah,
that's a big one. That's a big one for me.
that's huge. Ginny, thank you so much for sharing
It's
that.
it's not a fun one, guys. I know we
I'm
talked a
just
lot about it. I haven't done a lot of talking about it, but I'm glad to talk about it because it feels better, to talk about it. It's not fun at all.
I admire, I love you.
I
Uh,
know you do.
I
I
literally
love you
sweat the
too.
shit out of this girl. And like that just brought you to a whole other level that I didn't even know you could get to in my book.
Jeez.
Just like being willing to talk about that stuff because you're going to help others. I know there are women
I
out
hope.
there, men out there who
Yeah.
have been victims
Mm.
of rape
In
and
scenarios like that.
other things like that, incest, molestation,
Right.
traumas, abuse, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? That this, it all goes back to the sexuality. Like, so I had my own sexual trauma. I don't know if I said this
You did
already.
too.
At 5 years old, at 7 years old, and then I started drinking, right? And I, like a little puppy walking home every night with my cone of shame on, maybe not every night.
Were you one of those girls?
I was one of those girls. I was a little barfly that like hung around
Were
till
you?
like the end of the night with a
Really?
loser to take me home. Like I
Like, let me
was,
find the most destructive guy.
yeah, let me find the most unhealthy, nasty
Individual in here.
Yeah, because that's what I felt like I deserved. And I did that walk of shame more times than I care to recall.
Mhm.
And I remember feeling like I'd go home, like my friends weren't doing that. They weren't. And
Mhm.
I remember like afterwards, like, I'm still drunk in the morning, but maybe
Oh
that
my
afternoon
gosh,
I'm
yeah.
like, and that helped still being drunk in the morning
Right?
because it didn't
Always
make me
did.
feel as bad. But then later on, it was like, why am I doing this?
Uh-huh.
Why do I have no self-respect? So like, unlike Ginny, my story, I completely just did to myself. I mean, I blacked out numerous times. It is possible that
Sure.
something like that happened to
Yeah.
me. I was kind of forced once, but I don't think I did it? I don't know. I can't remember because I was in a blackout. But I
Right.
feel like he was pretty pissed after. Like he drove me home and he was
Mhm.
really pissed off. And so I don't think I did because if I would have, then he probably would have been like, on that
Okay, cool.
pink
See you later.
cloud
Yeah.
or that like, whatever that
Yeah.
afterglow, the afterglow.
The afterglow.
We're so insane that we talked about this stuff. We still laugh. You gotta laugh.
Yeah. If we don't, it's impossible.
I'll just start crying. I'm on very little sleep. It's the anniversary of my brother's death.
Oh,
So
that's right. You know what
there-
I meant to tell you that. I wish I could have gotten to know your brother, but
yeah,
I
you
think
guys
I
know
do.
each other.
Yeah, right. But I've been thinking a lot about you since this morning, and I know today's a big day, and
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
it
I'll touch on that later, like in terms of Jeremy and
Yeah.
how shame played into his ultimate demise. But I brought on a lot of this stuff myself, and I just felt like there's definitely something wrong with me because these other girls are not doing this. Like they
Mhm.
are not so desperate to feel a morsel of being wanted or attention getting or like they don't have to do these things to satisfy this need inside
Mhm.
that was just screaming at me like you have to get this need met and not a sexual need, of course. It was this
A worthiness thing,
like
right?
somebody
Wants
wanted me. Somebody wanted
Mhm.
me. It didn't matter who it was. My standards were like super low. On top of it, I'd wake up next to these people not even knowing their names.
Mhm.
Like I remember waking up next to somebody. I go into my friend's room. I'm in college. I run into her room. I'm like, who's in my bed? And she says his name. And I was like, oh, wow, and I wound up dating this guy for 4 years after that. So
Did you really?
yeah, 4 extremely tumultuous.
Tell me, was it the healthiest relationship you've ever been
Yeah,
in?
furthest thing. And come on, like you couldn't see that coming from a mile away. So, I wake up next to this dude, I don't even know
Know
his
his name?
name. And yeah, this is gonna be a great relationship.
Gonna go
This is
great.
gonna be so good. It's just this crazy thing that I had to do to make this story true. And the story is not true. And it took many, many years for me to finally jump this hurdle. Like
Mhm.
16 years in recovery, and I finally decided to deal with this trauma
Right.
from childhood and then all these other various traumas that compounded that shame. Um, because I refused to live without the full, serenity, the full freedom. It's unacceptable to me to live a life where I'm not getting all the spiritual gifts that I deserve because today I truly feel like I deserve it. And
Right. And give them too, right? Because when we allow to make that space to take the shame out, get rid of the shame to let those things in so that we can share them with
because
each
I'm
other.
going to bring that out into the world, right? Like we don't see things, the world the way it is. We see them how we are, right? Was that really
Yes.
somebody said that?
I love Rumi.
And it's so true. So if I'm feeling shameful, I'm going to just project that out into the world. I'm going to be a hurricane in people's lives. I'm going
Mhm.
to try and make people feel as bad as I feel,
Yep.
right?
And you
Like
may
you
not
said
even know
before,
what that you're
we
doing that.
don't even know we're doing it. We don't even know we're doing it.
Projecting it.
But then if I'm feeling, self-love and self-worth, then I'm going to give that to other people.
Right.
So this work is not just for me, for my own freedom. It's for being a good friggin' human. I want to be a
Right.
good human, and I cannot be the best human that I was made to be if I'm walking around carrying this stuff. And this is why we're
No.
willing to talk about this stuff and to get vulnerable and to go deep into these conversations, because we know we're not the only ones.
There's no way. And again, as we talked about in the last episode with our lack of connection to each other, how escalated that is and why some of those things are there. Some of them are really obvious to us, but others are not. And this is
Yeah,
one
this
that's
is one of them.
not.
Yeah,
It's
this
not.
one's lurking in the shadows, but it seems
Yes.
to cause the most destruction because it comes out in all these ways. So where does it come from? Where does this shame come from? We talked about like sexual traumas and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and we talked about society and Pinkie Pie and all that kind of stuff. But like, sometimes our families, especially the generations past,
Mhm.
they can put this stuff on us and teach us things that, oh, let me tell you the story. So this is very interesting. So I had like kind of thought about the stuff that we were going to talk about on
Mhm.
this show, and this was one of them. And I know that Ginny and I are going to tape this today. And I wake up to, I get these emails from Hazelden. It's like
Ooh,
a
I love
recovery.
Hazelden.
I get these daily emails, and it says something about over the years I've learned that, my father, this isn't particular to my father, but my parents did the best they can. I am
Right.
all forgiving. There is no blame. I'm putting that out there right now. I do not hold my parents responsible, but
Right.
they did the best they could with what they knew. But the quote says something about like, over the years, I've learned that my father's opinion of me was based on information he had, and that information was wrong.
Yeah.
Therefore, his opinion is wrong. And then it goes into all this stuff that people put on us. And as kids, you don't know any different. You just
Well,
believe what you're told.
and you think about the generations from back then, it's hard for us to identify shame now. And we're all of the feelings are all over the place. We're always talking about, more so now than, 40, 50, 60. I mean, take the generations back. They really could, even if they could identify shame, they surely weren't talking about it. And
They weren't allowed to. It was like
No.
this taboo. You don't talk about feelings. So you don't go to
No.
therapy. You don't heal. It's almost like this martyrdom, this like, I'm going to suffer. But they don't realize it. It was just cultural, generational.
It was a
right?
lie. It was a lie. Like the whole part of, yeah. that
The
they-
lie, again, stemming like we talked about in the first episode, the power structure keeping people in check.
Mhm.
It came from somewhere. They
Right.
didn't just dream it up. Generations past, parents, grandparents, they weren't just like, they didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to shame my kids today.
Right.
Like it was,
I'm going to destroy my children. Make sure I make one of them a serial killer. It'll be great.
was this insidious thing
Yeah.
that was put on. It was, you couldn't see it, elusive, all that. All these
Mm-mm.
words were using to describe it, but it got in there. And it was a tactic that worked for a lot of people. And it's a
Mhm.
tactic that still works.
Mhm.
But it's not okay anymore. Like we are waking up in droves.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's why I'm so happy that
Mhm.
I was born in 1980, because that's the only thing that separates me from my ancestors is
Right.
that I'm alive during this evolution of consciousness,
Yeah.
and that I have access to a lot more information, right?
Mhm.
Like we have studies, we have research from stuff
At
that
our
didn't
fingertips.
work. We have enough addiction and overdosing and all this problem just growing faster and faster. But the solution is growing faster and faster too, right?
I believe so.
Like social media. I have like a love-hate relationship with social media. I really,
So do I.
It's just, ugh. But it is doing some good work. Like it's really helping to spread these healing messages
It
quicker.
can do good work. And that's the thing. I think it's why it feels good to be doing what we're doing, just because, and this is the case for anybody, as quickly as we could pass on something so toxic, we could pass on something so positive too. And that's the hope
Yes.
for this. That's what we're trying to do.
So yeah, I think for me, forgiving past generations just for pure ignorance. And
Yeah.
ignorance just means without knowledge. Ignorance doesn't mean you're a stupid idiot.
Mhm.
Ignorance means they just didn't know any better.
Mm-mm.
I heard somebody in a meeting the other day be like, he was bad. And he was like, no, my parents knew better. My parents could have done better. And I used to feel like that.
Easiest people to blame too. Yeah, and there's some truth for a lot of people. It's a challenging times
But now, today, I really truly believe that people do the best they can.
with what they have, the tools they have.
Yeah. And based on their own experiences, the tools that they have, the knowledge they have. Like we said, I don't think any parents waking up and saying, I could do a lot better. I could love my kids so much better today,
Right.
but I'm just not gonna.
I'm just gonna choose not to.
I'm just gonna mess these kids up as badly as I can, right?
How much therapy can I make them have to have?
Exactly. That's not true.
No.
So I give my parents grace and
Mm.
I, forgive them. I also was not an easy child to deal with.
Right.
I was not. I mean, I acted out. I was alcoholic by 16 years old. Me and
Yeah.
my brother were lunatics. We were not easy kids to raise, so I do not blame my parents. And especially now that I'm an adult, it's my job to heal.
Right?
I can't sit around pointing
No.
fingers and blaming people for stuff that truly they just didn't.
They didn't. And the thing is, the other part of that is like repeating that soundtrack in our mind, right? We're not going to be able to go back and be like, oh, let us give our parents or whoever it was that raised us the tools to make me feel better now. It's like we can't do that. We have to figure out how to heal it in the now. That's what we have the control to do, not to go back and say, well, they should, let me try to do what I can to
change the past. I
change
heard
the
that like a
past.
definition of insanity is continually trying to change the past and
Right.
not being able to accept what is. And every generation tries to do better than the last.
Right.
That's just life. That's just the realm of reality that we're living in.
Evolution.
Yes, the evolution. Every generation becomes more and more evolved. So my mom did it better than her mom. I'm probably doing it a little bit better than my mom. She has said to me, where did you learn this stuff? A lot of it's from you, Mom. You definitely made me the woman of grit and resilience that I am. So thank you. But my kids are going to do it better than me.
Right.
Right?
I can hope so. I can only hope so. God, I can only hope so. For me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I'm trying the best I can. My husband and I, we try. We're very conscious. We take opportunities to,
you guys are. You guys do a
moments of
great job.
learnings. I'm very tired. I can't think of the right words, but
Teachable moment.
teachable moments. There it is. And but they're still gonna grow up and they're gonna say, "How could you do this?
Right.
Mom? How could you have done that?"
Yep.
We all just do the best we can, and I like to give grace to myself and give grace to people who really are just trying to do the best that they can, honestly. So when I feel that shame kind of creep in, sides for me are like, number one, I don't like myself.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't like myself. Number two, I'm like itchy in my skin. And, number three, I want to pull away from people.
Very isolating. It's almost closing in on yourself. It's that feeling of closing in on yourself. It's, everything's diminished all the way in when the shame is around.
Yeah, because I don't think I'm worthy of love.
Right.
I don't want to connect with people. I want to isolate because I kind of want to feel this like crappy way. Like I don't want to feel better. So I'm going to keep myself separate from you. I don't think I deserve to feel better.
I don't deserve to feel better.
Yep. So that is where I think the disconnection from others comes in and from ourselves, because feeling that way is a sure sign of disconnection from yourself.
Absolutely.
You are true love. You are pure love. That is your true self. You are just all abundant love and light. And when you're feeling that I don't like myself, ding, 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 that's it.
Yeah.
That is the telltale sign right there. And then the next thing is I don't want to be around other people.
Yeah, it's definitely, it takes you to that darker, and it just gets darker. That's the thing, right? With that shame, it just continues to cause you to isolate even more, and you're still not even sure what it is you're wrestling with.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's like this void of this, like I have to fill this lack of self-worth that I feel. And then we turn to the workaholism, the shopping, like we talked about last time. You called it Amazoning. I've never heard that before. Ginny called it Amazoning in the last episode. That was great. But yeah, we need to fill that void, or I feel like we're gonna die, right?
Yeah, we really do.
It's so basic, primal sort of instincts that we're trying to fulfill here. And when the shame is keeping those healthy things out of our reach, we're gonna fill it with something else.
Oh, 100%. And it's, almost always. And it's almost like shame is like the weeds, right? You're not going to be able to let other things grow unless you're pulling those out. It takes up so much space. We talk about it being so dense. It takes up so much space within you that there's so many of these other ways to be fulfilling your life, to be fully what you are, that we don't allow in at all, because it's just taken up.
There's no room.
There's no room. There's like rocks in there. It's like concrete, like I was saying. It's like concrete. And breaking that up is like not an easy task. But identifying it, imagine if we can help even one person, even stop to go, oh, that's that shitty feeling I've been having. Like, wait a minute. This feeling I have about myself, even in adulthood now, like this might have stemmed all the way back from there. If one of you is able to even just shed some light on that today, that's going to be massive. Now, if all of us start learning how to do that, oh man, forget it.
And those things come in like these little intuitive hits, right? So
Yeah.
like, don't look so hard for it.
Mm.
Just honor what pops into your head.
Mhm.
It's there for a reason,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like you just feel something, but so quickly in like 0.25 seconds, we just kind of like just swish it away. Like,
Mhm.
no, I don't want to look at that. Or like you don't even do it consciously. The secret is to try and hold on to that. You get that like fleeting thought, hold on to
Mhm.
it and don't let it go. And say, I am going to step into this.
See what it is.
I'm going to
We're gonna investigate.
investigate this thing. And then I'm going to give myself permission to,
Not be afraid to sit in it for a little bit.
it's not going to kill you. It's not,
Mm-mm.
running from it will.
Yes, it will. Don't we know that? Wow.
Well, yeah. And then that brings me to Jeremy. So I talked about him a little bit on the last episode. So today is his 5-year anniversary of
5
his
years.
death. And I have a candle in the meditation cave, which has now become a meditation fort.
It's a meditation fort. This is amazing. The sound, yeah, because we got some feedback about the echo, so we really are trying to fix that, friends. So
Yeah, so let us know if it sounds any better.
yeah,
So
we're trying.
Ginny dreamed up this like
Very innovative, guys. Very
amazing concept.
very innovative.
And me and my 2 little girls marched to Home Depot yesterday
Yeah.
and picked up some DIY installation
Yes.
and literally took packing tape and we taped them all together. And so we have them on each side. And then we put the top on it. So we're covered in like 3 sides.
Yep.
But the top was caving in.
Yeah. And then once again, I came up with a brilliant engineering concept.
And since we're barricaded in this room because it's so small and we have these panels, I yelled out to my kids to go grab the like Swiffer thing or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
some kind of Swiffer. It's like something that
I
you
was
slip in the floor.
suggesting tension rods because doesn't everybody just have tension rods sitting around in their closet?
I used
Did
to.
you really?
I used to have
so
a
you
tension
really-
rod. I used to have tension rods. Anyway, so they put down this cleaning.
It's a Swiffer Amanda ish.
No, it's
a
not a real
knockoff Swiffer.
Swiffer.
It's not. It's a whiffer.
It's
a pliffer. It's not a Swiffer. Do you remember like when your parents would be like, "Why can't we buy Fruit Loops?" They're like, "Oh, for real?" They're like, "Fruity-O's are the same thing," and you're like, "Are they? Are they the same thing? They're not. Like this is shit. This is the Fruity-O's. This is not Fruit Loops. That's a whiffer."
So we put it across the top. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard to explain, but it's holding up the top.
Yeah.
So far, it has not fallen in on us.
No.
But we like to light candles in here.
Yes, especially for Jeremy today, but we like to like it especially today.
So, and I have a story for another day about how I almost burned my house down. So,
And oh,
a little
P.S.
weary of
Amanda's married to
a fireman,
a fireman.
a retired fireman,
Mhm.
and so fire is like a thing here. So we should,
But it's totally safe, you guys. We're good.
We're
It's
good, we're
fine
good.
that we're barricaded in a room with foam. We're literally in a fort. It's called a meditation fort. It's fine. It's also in a cave-like environment where getting out might be tough if we caught on fire, but it's good. We're good. We're
we're
gonna
gonna
be
be very, very fine.
We're totally fine. Don't tell Jim. Don't tell Jim. He'll never let me back here again.
So we have this little candle. It's just a little tea light candle. It's a little
I
small
love
little
it.
candle, and it's my Jeremy candle. And I have like a whole little area in my meditation cave for
Mhm.
Jeremy. We have a very strong connection, he and I. And I
Yeah.
feel very strongly. I mean, I get like numerous signs a day. I just got one yesterday actually, which
Did
is
you
pretty
really?
cool.
I love
I was
that.
sad last night. My family was away and my kids were at a sleepover party and my husband was visiting a friend and I was by myself and I had a moment and I just,
Yeah.
I was going downstairs to play my drums and I don't know, something stopped me on the stairs and I sat down on the stairs and I just kind of let out a cry. And then I pulled myself together
Mhm.
and
Do you have other siblings?
I have an older brother,
Okay.
another older brother. So I still was like, I'm just so pissed that I still feel this way. And da, da, da. Anyway, so I go upstairs, I get a glass of water, and I look down at my black socks, which are like covered in dog hair and all sorts of shit. And I look down, and I guess walking the dog, I got some like grasses in my shoe, and I look down and I see these grasses in the shape of a cross.
Like a actual cross.
Yeah, like clear as day, clear as
And
day.
this is after you were crying?
This was right after, literally.
Literally. See, I don't know. I can't help but I know there's a lot of people that's too much. Like it's to think of like, well, we can make our minds think we see things. I just don't. I can't help but think
No,
that those are real. That's real.
It's happened way too many times in
Yeah.
like rapid succession. Like
Yeah.
Jeremy comes to me like 3-4 signs at a time because he's like, you still don't believe me? Here you go. You still don't believe me? Here you go.
Harassing you still.
Yeah. Like, dude, it's real. So anyway, I'm like, all right, well, we're taping this show.
Yeah.
We had this planned. I didn't realize it until Ginny actually brought it up the other night. She goes, "Isn't your brother's anniversary on the 19th?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Because I didn't know how you'd feel today, right? It's like, I don't know what that, I've watched people really close to me and people that I love very much and pretty close about like losing a sibling, but I haven't lost my sibling, so I didn't know. I was like, God, I don't know how she's going to feel about like
No,
doing
this
this
is, he
today.
wants me to do this.
Yeah.
He's like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So it's like a way to honor him,
Mm,
and I feel that I am almost like his hands and feet now on earth. I feel like he wants me to do the work of the heavens through my connection with him. Like I
right.
can feel him and hear him like tell me stuff. And
Just his journey, his entire journey, definitely was not for nothing. And there's so many of us who have lost people to this. So I bet you that uh, he wants you to continue to be able to help people with his journey too, even though he's not physically here. But go ahead.
I mean,
Sorry.
totally. He's
Say,
telling me right now, like, this is what you were born to do. Like, this is
yeah.
what you're made to do. And I was asking, like, did you want me to say anything about this topic? Like, it's interesting that we
Shame, you
chose
mean?
shame. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's in the same day of your
Right.
death. What I feel is shame killed my brother.
Yeah.
We walk around with this incomprehensible demoralization, like we said, these actions that we are so ashamed of ourselves.
I was going to ask, and I don't know if you like how you feel about talking about it, but your brother struggled with addiction too, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
He overdosed and died. He had been drinking since like 13, the magic number 13, right? That's
Right?
when I started. And then it
Mm-hmm.
just picked up. And it's not my story
Yeah,
to
no.
tell. I'm not going to go into his adventures. But what I can tell you is that over the years, all of these behaviors, all of this pain and this shame built up. He would try to look at it every now and then. When he would go to look at it occasionally, he just
Yeah.
couldn't. He couldn't. It was too much
Too
to face. He
much.
could not face his pain. So it was, it's like opening up a Pandora's box, right? It's like,
Absolutely.
if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to do, like we call it, it's a fourth step in our recovery program where you identify your resentments, you look at all this stuff that people did to you, that you did to them, all that kind of stuff. He couldn't do it. I mean,
Too
that thing
much.
would be like a mile long, and he was in such denial about it. I remember him telling me, I was like, I'm not mad at anybody. I don't have any resentment.
Mhm.
That's the disease. But anyway, it was just too much for him to unpack and to heal and to look at. And then you drink to escape. And then you do drugs to escape. You do all the stuff to escape. And then more
Right.
shameful acts. We say a lot, drugs and alcohol. But what's under that? It's
Yeah.
shame. It's fear. That's
Absolutely.
what kills us.
Yeah.
And I think that's what took him away. And I hope that he was proud of
Oh, he's
us.
proud.
I know
he's proud.
he loves you, Ginny. He loves you. I
Oh,
feel
that
like he's
makes
here, and I don't know if that weeds
I
anybody out, but that's my truth. That's who I am.
Oh, man.
And
I love that.
he says, "All right, girls, now you can shut up."
You're right, man. I'm sorry. We just talk a lot, Jeremy. Okay. No,
So we hope that this helped you a little bit today.
Yes.
Next, we're going to be doing this every 2 weeks. We have a email address set up now. It's soulrisingpodcast@gmail.com. So if you want to share anything, you need to unburden, you need to talk about anything, we will respond to you.
Absolutely.
I might have 50 emails to check, but if I see your email, you're the one I'm talking to first.
Absolutely.
You have my word on that. So please reach out to us. It's super important.
That's what we're here for. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're trying to heal, and we're trying to do everything to help anyone else who's on that journey to try to heal even a little bit. So we're both here. Reach out to us. You can reach either one of us at that email address. We would love to hear from you.
So I write a blog. It's called Get Real, All In on Love, Loss, and Connection. And we're kind of loosely tying our podcast episode to the blog that comes out on a Friday. Podcast comes out the following Friday. So the next one that I have planned it's called Next Level Self-Love.
Love that.
So it kind of plays well off of this
Mhm.
because it's the solution to this burning down that shame.
That's right.
So I'm going to leave you with this little challenge. And then next episode is going to give you another amazing tool to burn this shame to the ground. So
Yes.
the challenge that I'm throwing out to you guys today, next time you feel that shame bubble up, right? Next time you get that little inkling like we talked about, pay attention to it. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself literally, see yourself lighting a match and burn that shame down. Burn it. Just put the match right on it. You can either choose to see the word shame, like you can see the word shame, whatever you want to visualize. But for me, instead of something like outside of me, since shame just kind of runs through my blood and my veins, I like to burn the actual part of me that feels shame,
Right.
right? So like try to feel that thing inside, take that match and burn the feeling.
Burn it, let it turn into something else. Let it be finally broken through, really.
Yeah.
You're burning through that. You're burning through it.
Yeah, you burn it and it turning into ash. If you're doing this genuinely and earnestly, you're probably going to shed a few tears.
Oh, 100%.
If it doesn't feel powerful to the point where you feel overwhelmed with emotion, try it again.
You know what I was going to ask too, Amanda, if you were, I don't know. And you're right. I think the visualization part of it, I know for me, if it helps you guys at all, I know for me, I'm somebody who has to do things sometimes. If you could write it down on a piece of paper, if there's something you've never spoken to anyone that's happened to you or something that you carry shame about that you can actually write on a piece of paper and see yourself write it, put it there, give it a place to live. And if you have a safe spot to do it, I mean, literally maybe burn it.
Yeah, that's like a ritual. Rituals are really, really good.
Yeah.
You know, and it's grief too, right? Like this is a part of you that you've carried for so long. And even though it's uncomfortable and you don't like it, it's still going to involve a bit of a grieving process.
Absolutely.
Even though you want to get rid of it.
Because it's been who you've been convinced it's part of who you are. And anytime we get rid of that, even the bad things, we're getting rid of a piece of our egos, unloading a piece of who we think we are.
And if it feels like that, like, and that's probably why we hold on to it for so long, because it feels scary to let go of that, even
because
though
you don't
we
know
it's
what
a lie.
Yeah, you don't know what to fill it with either. You don't know what we should have there.
And what you're going to fill it with is what we're going to talk about next time.
Yes,
Is this immense self-love.
yes.
So yeah, just watch it burn, do a ritual, do whatever you need to do. And you're going to need to do this multiple times.
Absolutely.
You're not just going to do it once and feel this great sense of relief. It has to become like a practice. You catch it, it comes up, and then you do whatever process, whatever ritual, whatever thing that works for you. These are just some ideas that we're
there's
throwing out there.
suggestions.
Hopefully you'll hear this and it'll spark something else and be like, oh, I'm going to do this because
Right.
this is really what resonates with me. So yeah, just watch it burn it down to the ash and burn that shame to the ground, baby.
Burn that shame to the ground. I was about to say, burn that shame to the ground. See, I caught myself, you guys. I did.
Good save.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we'll talk about in a couple of weeks, you're going to watch your true self be birthed with compassion and self-love.
Yep.
And no shame about that.
No,
you don't
no
have to
shame
feel
about-
shame for feeling really good.
Yeah.
You're allowed.
And there's a beautiful version of you in there, just waiting to be, excavated, like we were talking about. So we want to see it for you too, because you'll be glad when you do that. So.
All right, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank
And
you,
we'll see you in a couple weeks.
See you then.
Take it easy. If this podcast resonates with you and you want to dive deeper, check out my blog, Get Real, all in on love, loss, and connection at AmandaMcCoyFlanagan.com. That's McCoy with a K. You can also follow me on Instagram at Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
See you next time. Until then, let that soul rise.